The External Affairs Minister, Dr. S. Jaishankar, today took on big tech at an international platform. He was with former British Prime Minister Tony Blair at the India Global Forum, and the minister set the record straight on big tech and compliance with laws in India, a democracy. He shot down the argument that asking big tech and social media giants to follow law of the land amounts to an attack on freedom of speech and expression. Incidentally, Tony Blair too made the point about the need for a regulatory framework for big tech to operate in.
Big tech is there. It's in my life, very, very visibly in my life. So you have a big presence. Where's the responsibility? Okay, they have huge power. Where's the accountability?
The biggest and the most direct attack on big tech. External Affairs Minister Dr. S. Jaishankar exposed double standards of social media giants at the India Global Forum, raising the debate about accountability with big power that big tech wields and responsibility with their massive presence in our lives.
In a democratic society, we have to ask ourselves, okay, big tech is there. It's in my life, very, very visibly in my life. So you have a big presence. Where's the responsibility which comes with it? Okay, they have huge power. Where's the accountability? This is again not an issue limited to India. They harvest our data as they do across the world. So you have, in a sense, the opposite of the American Revolution, which is you have representation and no taxation.
Former British Prime Minister Tony Blair raised the issue of the technological revolution of the 21st century being the equivalent of the industrial revolution of the 19th century, where big tech plays a very crucial role in the lives of people. Blair agreed there was a need for a regulatory mechanism within which big tech operates in any democracy.
So if you take the major tech giants, their impact on our lives and on the economy is so enormous that my institute published a paper last year, actually, talking about how you need a regulatory framework within which they operate.
Dr. Jaishankar exposed the argument that asking big tech to operate in a regulatory mechanism in a democracy amounts to an assault on free speech.
International relations has been devised on the basis of state-based players. What happens when you have non-state players who in some ways are bigger than many, many states? So these are very serious questions which need debating. I think they can't be brushed under the carpet saying, well, you shouldn't question them because then you're attacking freedom of speech. I think that's a cop-out. It obviously serves their interest. So it's a very, very legitimate debate.
India had in February directed big tech giants to operate in a regulatory mechanism and appoint a grievance redressal officer to respond to grievances of social media users, a nodal officer to interact with government agencies, and a compliance officer to file a monthly compliance report on complaints and action taken. Twitter is yet to appoint the three, despite a week-long grace period given after the May 26 deadline. Union Law and IT Minister Ravi Shankar Prasad has accused Twitter of following an arbitrary approach.
You, in Washington, when some people invade the Capitol, you stop their Twitter account, which also involved a president at that point in time. Your decision? But when the Red Fort of Delhi is invaded during the farmers' strike by terrorist supporters with sword-wielding people, Red Fort is where the Prime Minister hoists the national flag. You say it is freedom of speech?
The Parliamentary Standing Committee on Information Technology has also given Twitter a 48-hour deadline to explain why Union Law and IT Minister Ravi Shankar Prasad's Twitter account was blocked for an hour and directed the microblogging platform to comply with Indian IT laws and rules. Bureau Report, India Today. And the other big story, Google is in the line of fire, and this time over a serious breach of privacy. Sources have told India Today that during a deposition before the Parliamentary Standing Committee on Information Technology, the global tech giant representatives admitted that their employees listened to private recordings of customer conversations via Google Assistant. Rahul Srivastav with this report.
There's a little Google in everyone's life. If you're online in any shape or form, there's almost zero chance that Google isn't part of your existence. You've always known somewhere that tech companies keep tabs on your life, your habits, what you watch, what you shop for, where you go, who you meet, and what you say. But Google's links in your life have just become a little more explicit. During a deposition before India's Parliamentary Standing Committee on Information Technology, headed by Congress MP Shashi Tharoor, on the need to safeguard citizens' rights, top sources tell India Today that Google representatives admitted that Google employees listened to private recordings of customer conversations via Google Assistant. Sources say Google admitted that its employees listen when users with Google Assistant on their phones and smart speakers say "OK Google" to kickstart a conversation with the assistant, very much like Amazon's Alexa. Significantly, the Google team admitted that some user conversations were recorded even when users weren't activating Google Assistant. Google has said that only general conversations were recorded, never anything sensitive. Now, how Google actually differentiates is something it didn't clarify to the parliamentary panel. To sum up, admission number one, employees do listen to private recordings via Google Assistant. They listen to Google Assistant instructions, but that these recordings are of general conversations, nothing sensitive.
Get a Lyft ride to my hotel.
The admissions by Google explain why lakhs of users, right after asking Google Assistant, for instance, about hotels in a city, start getting messages on their accounts on different platforms about deals and offers, is what one member of the parliamentary panel observed. Deeming it a serious breach of user privacy, the panel's final report is expected to make recommendations to the central government on it.
I think currently, in the absence of a data privacy law, it looks very difficult because all these things are done in the form of collecting data for precision advertisement. So in my opinion, once we have the data privacy bill in place, then I think we will be able to better regulate these companies and maybe deny certain things or maybe force them to clarify to every user that how they are collecting your data, when they are collecting and how they are using.
The panel firmly conveyed to representatives from Google and other tech giants, including Facebook, that they need to plug loopholes urgently in their existing data protection and privacy policy mechanism and install stringent safeguards.
The government can mandate the service providers like Google to stop hearing the conversations of the users who are using Google Assistant in India. Why? Because Google is an intermediary under Section 21W of the Information Technology Act 2000. It's mandated to exercise due diligence.
Social media platforms that have challenged India's new IT rules have found Indian politicians uniting across party lines to direct Facebook, Google and others to comply with the country's laws. The absence of a political divide has led to extensive grueling of teams from these tech giants. With Rahul Srivastav in Delhi, Bureau Report, India Today.
And the question remains, is big tech taking India for granted? Or is there merit in the criticism that government is muzzling freedom of expression? Let's widen this debate. Joining me on the broadcast is Ambassador Vishnu Prakash, a strong critic of big tech not following laws of the land. Saira Shah Halim, who says government action appears to be an attempt to silence voices of criticism. Pawan Duggal, one of India's foremost voices on cybersecurity, law and compliance. My first question is to India Today's National Affairs editor, Rahul Srivastav. Rahul, if Google is listening to a conversation the moment you say, okay, Google, and seek any information, is that a breach of privacy? And what's the thinking in the Parliamentary Standing Committee on what needs to be done?
Gaurav, after our news post, most of the channels, everybody followed up on that story. And I got a call from Google, and I've got a explanation, clarification from Google. And I would like to read that, and then the debate and everybody in the panel should opine. It says that voice data and query contents are sent to Google servers for analysis and storage in My Activity, though users can remove it. As part of our work to develop speech technology for more languages, we partner with language experts around the world who understand nuances. We apply a wide range of safeguards.
Okay.
Language experts only review around 0.2% of all audio snippets all over the world, Gaurav, 0.2%. Audio snippets are not registered with user accounts and others. What Google is saying that when you say, okay, Google, hello, Google, then the recording which gets made, some of it is picked and listened. Now, do I know when the terms and conditions are signed, there are hundreds of pages, nobody reads it.
Yes.
That means it's kind of data privacy being breached, technically in my knowledge, but I actually am not aware.
Okay.
Now, what information I would like to share, that also not in my hand. They
Okay.
pick and choose.
Okay, Pawan Duggal, as a cybersecurity and law expert, is Google listening to conversations only when that speak or that mic button is pressed, or can they eavesdrop on conversations too? Can apps eavesdrop on conversation?
Historically, it's been well documented that any kind of an app can eavesdrop. In fact, the moment you have an app that's connected to Internet of Things or general mobile app, it has the intrinsic ability to go ahead and listen. Now, everything really depends on what's actually written in the terms and conditions of privacy policy. But as rightly pointed out, nobody reads these privacy policy or terms and conditions, and therefore people end up cutting their hands and serving it on the breakfast table for the service provider. What people have to quickly start realizing is we cannot really trust service providers for the purposes of protecting our own privacy. We will have to be consciously careful on our own. Why? Because these intermediaries are providing us world-class services for free. And when they are providing these services for free, we become the product. So once we are becoming the product, we should not really cry hoarse. We should actually be studious in only picking up those products who are effectively going ahead and protecting our personal privacy and data privacy.
Fair enough. Saira Shah Halim, questioning big tech does not amount to challenging freedom of expression or speech, according to the External Affairs Minister. Why is the government asking Twitter to comply with India's IT rules being seen as an attack on freedom of speech and expression, ma'am?
Sure, Gaurav. See, definitely there's no denying that national security, sovereignty of the country, communal harmony, these are all pertinent issues and matter of grave public safety. These are all real issues. These are not imagined issues. However, the concern here is that most states use this as a bogey to stifle dissent and criticism. As we've seen, the government had asked Twitter to remove certain tweets that were termed as disputed tweets by Twitter.
Okay.
So firstly, we need to understand that Twitter doesn't have any loyalty. It's, again, it's led by market forces. And if we believe that Twitter is all romantic and it's here unifying, liberating factor, it's just a commercial force like any other market force.
Is it?
So here, yes.
Is it? Or
so,
is it, do we need to delve deeper? And let me bring in Ambassador Vishnu Prakash on this point. So you are saying that government is using these laws, Saira Shah Halim, to stifle dissent. Ambassador Vishnu Prakash, multiple FIRs against social media platform Twitter, including on their MD, Manish Maheshwari, and others. Are these intimidation tactics by the government, sir?
Good evening, Gaurav. Let me pose a hypothetical question. Is Twitter above the law? How long will Twitter take to comply with the law of the land? And if we suspect the motives of the government of India, then that's a different matter. I would rather suspect the motives of a multinational company, which is here for commercial purposes, than suspect the motives of the government of India. So since February, the government has been trying, and they are not listening. They have positioned themselves as a champion of democracy. I mean, they are really playing with the Indian laws, trying to dare the government of India. And, I don't think that this can be allowed.
Okay.
If you can give me 1 minute, I just want to think it through. Suppose they continue like this and they are booted out of the country, what happens? What India does today, the world emulates it tomorrow, because all eyes are on what India does, because everybody is concerned.
No, but if Twitter is booted out, do we then get into the category of countries like China and Nigeria? I mean, if we are champions of free speech, why should Twitter be booted out?
Because if you don't, we are not a banana republic. If you don't comply with the laws of the land, I think, and we turn the other cheek. If we were China or Nigeria, thank God we are not, by now Twitter would not have been out long ago. We have been discussing with Twitter, reasoning out with Twitter, and they believe that they can get away with that. I don't think that is acceptable, because if they want to be a representative of developed countries only, then let it be so. But if they want to operate in India, they'll have to follow the law of the land.
Response, Saira Shah Halim. If Twitter or if social media companies, if tech giants want to operate in India, they have to follow India's laws. They cannot peddle fake news, as is the government allegation in for example, in the Ghaziabad case. They cannot show a distorted map of India. You're a general's daughter. Are you okay, Saira Shah Halim, with Ladakh being shown as part of Tibet and Jammu Kashmir being shown with Pakistan-occupied Kashmir and not as Indian territory?
No, I'm definitely not okay with the Indian map being distorted. Hopefully Twitter or any other social media giant must be made absolutely answerable to this absolute, dereliction of communication. Here, I'm also iterating one thing is the interests of the two warring sides. We need to understand the interests between the government and the big techs. And who are the people who are caught in between? They are simply the users, the Indian citizenry that are caught between the state and the big tech. And let me tell you that the ones who are caught between the two warring giants are not interested in the rise. They simply want to use it as a platform to air the views, to market their products and whatever. And I've already said that Twitter is again led by market forces. So we need to also remind ourselves that Twitter had permanently banned the US President Trump from his platform, which has been a phenomenal move. I mean, nobody does it. It had also marked his tweets as disputed. And this is when he was very much in office.
Yet, if I may bring in Rahul Srivastava, certain tweets about what happened in Ghaziabad, according to the Uttar Pradesh police, facts were different from what was put out, and yet those tweets were not marked disputed. Now, does that show that Twitter is unbiased, or does that show Twitter has a very pronounced bias?
Gaurav, Ambassador and Mr. Dugal said two very important things. When something is free, we are the product, the users are the product. And then how these big companies, after they assume a certain fiscal might or a footprint across the globe, they do have a lot of geopolitical interests. It's not me saying it, it's not others saying it. Governments in several countries are saying it. In India, we talk about free speech, and also our leaders and everybody like to communicate across the globe through Twitter, something like Twitter. That's why it's not easy to throw them out. Sure. Second crisis is that there is also a problem if you throw somebody like Twitter out or ban it, it's bad calling card across the globe that in India, foreign companies will find it difficult to do business. Beyond that, fairness, Gaurav, we talked about Mr. Trump made objectionable statements. What about the top brass in Iran? They are spewing venom every day, but no action. I think there is a bit of suitability creeping in as far as Twitter's operations are concerned. When policemen are thrown into a moat at Red Fort, no action suo moto. When it is Sambit Patra's toolkit, right or wrong, we don't adjudicate on that. It is manipulated media. I think that's where Twitter needs to have either a consistent formula or total hands-off intermediary attitude that we don't do it, we are just an intermediary.
Pawan Duggal, does Twitter have that, or do social media companies have that hands-off, we are just intermediaries attitude, or are they very clearly taking sides in this case?
Well, ideally, if you look at from the legal angle, the law wants them to have an hands-off approach. There should not be any part of any kind of a process of sending the message or contributing the editorially in the said message. But if you land up doing that, you're actually walking a very difficult path, because you're actually potentially aiming in the direction where you could even land up losing your statutory exemption from legal liability. Unlike the Twitters of the world, who have distinctly a political philosophy to actually adhere to, most of the other service providers have by and large chosen to adopt a more kind of an independent thought process. They may be less objective or more objective. That can be depending on the facts of each case. But they are all very, very selfishly concerned that they should continue to remain within the statutory umbrella of exemption from legal liability. Because this Twitter case has now shown us that if your liability is, or your statutory exemption from legal liability is actually withdrawn by operation of Rule 7 of the IT Rules 2021, you are now going to be exposed to a plethora of FIRs and criminal prosecutions. And even when Google is actually listening to our conversations, that is also a violation of the IT Rules 2021, which also automatically attracts the fact that Google would have lost its statutory exemption from legal liability, and therefore it could also be exposed to legal liability. So I think the messaging is try to be on the right side of the law, try to respect the digital rights and liberties of your users, and try not to become political leaders or political change instruments or elements in the political thought processes of different countries.
Is that what Twitter is attempting to do in our country, Saira Shah Halim? It's not unbiased. Government saying that, it's arguing the point, as Rahul Srivastava pointed out, Capitol Hill violence, images were taken off. Red Fort violence, policemen in the moat, alleged terrorists brandishing weapons, insightful material on social media not taken off, and multiple such examples that Union Law and IT Minister told India Today in a recent interview to Rahul Srivastava. Does this indicate that Twitter is not an intermediary but is very clearly taking sides? Why is Twitter not, for example, appointing a compliance officer, a grievance redressal officer and a nodal officer as is mandated by law and regulations, ma'am?
See, there are two things that are pertinent here, Gaurav, is freedom and accountability. So definitely Twitter needs to comply with the law of the land. There's no disputing that. Now, what is happening here is a power control between big tech and the government, because it's all about who gets to control the narrative, who gets to control the communication. And I think here the actual losers are the citizenry. The actual losers are the people who are using this social media app.
But Twitter cannot decide that, ma'am. Or can Twitter? I mean, my question to you is, can Twitter decide what content will be put out and what content will be shown as manipulated? Or will that decision be taken when a situation is flagged?
See, I'll tell you something. The government is not above board. The government of any country. So whenever Twitter feels, when there's a fact
courts
checker,
decide. Courts of law will decide.
I'll tell you something, Gaurav. Alt News, this fact-checking website,
okay, hold on. I'm not getting into individual cases of individuals here. You may give an example, but keep names out of the conversation, ma'am.
No, what I'm saying is now Twitter, if it feels that a tweet is disputed, it might be a political spokesperson and it doubts the credibility of the information that is going on the broadcasting side, it will flag off the tweet like it did in Donald Trump's case. Imagine the president of the United States of America.
Okay.
His tweets were also flagged off. So I don't understand that why should any country be an exception? We need to have an impartial flow of information, and anybody, irrespective of whichever side of the fence they are on, if they're putting out wrong information, it might be a government source also who's putting out a misleading, misleading piece of information, and
So
Twitter
you are saying
doubts the credibility.
Twitter should be
It
judge,
might
jury
flag
and
that off.
executioner. Is that what you're saying?
No,
Twitter
what I'm
is the
saying
judge,
is-
jury and executioner, and not courts of law in
I did
India.
not say that. No, I did not say that. I said accountability. I said accountability is
What is
paramount.
Twitter's accountability, ma'am?
The Twitter's accountability is that it has to complete all the modalities. It needs to be in compliance with the rules of the country, the rules
Which it is
governing,
not.
especially the IT rules. However, let me also mention this, that nobody is above board. There have been political leaders who have put out very misleading tweets out there. And I feel it's very responsible of the social media to say, like, look, we are not blocking you. However, this tweet is misleading, like we saw in a famous actress's case.
But
She
the
kept
same,
putting out
they did
misleading
not do in the Ghaziabad case, where the police, after investigation, said the tweets are fake news. But Ambassador Vishnu Prakash, is big tech willfully not complying with laws of this land and hiding behind this facade of freedom of expression? And your response to Saira Shah Halim saying Twitter does due diligence, and then Twitter marks a tweet as manipulated media, and they blocked then US President Donald Trump.
I am very in quotes impressed by my co-panelist who believes in equating India, a small country of 1.35 billion people, with the might of Twitter. So I don't want to say anything further. If that is the equation, then I think we are looking at a different picture altogether. As far as President Trump is concerned, for 3 years, 11 months, and 15 days, he was doing what he was doing. Twitter did not do a thing. Only when they saw a fading presidency that they acted. They have a political agenda. We all know that. They believe that when it comes to developing countries, they want to be the spokesperson of democracy. That is something that is not acceptable. Now, there is also social media providers and tech giants and tech giants. I would beg to disagree that Google and Twitter are in the same boat. Google, when questioned, did not deny, did not cover up. They have been in compliance with all the laws. And yes, our laws are evolving. And as they are evolving, we are learning. So when there is an issue, it will be presented to them and hopefully they will rectify it.
Okay.
But Twitter is willfully, consciously is opposing the laws. They are trifling with Indian laws and they are trying to present themselves as a martyr. This is not acceptable.
Okay. But Pawan Duggal, multiple FIRs against Twitter, its managing director, some other employees of Twitter, and social media users who are seen as critical of this government. Is government then arm twisting critics and the platform that provides a voice to critics of the government?
Clearly not. The government is only doing what the law is empowering the government to do. Way back in 2000, the Information Technology Act was passed, wherein under Section 85, the criminal liability of corporates being intermediaries who are non-complying with the law was spelled out. Now, in the 2011 rules, various due diligences were prescribed, but it's for the first time that the IT rules 2021 have given specific explicit definition of the criminal liability of the companies. So once the law is providing, that you do not mandatorily comply, you do not comply with the mandatory provisions of the IT rules, then you are actually playing with fire. So once you're playing with fire without a fire suit and you get burned, then you cannot really cry horse. The government is only doing what Rule 7 of the IT Rules 2021 has allowed the government to do, which is to make these people liable for criminal liability for being punished for various offences under the Information Technology Act 2000 and the Indian Penal Code. Clearly, this is only the beginning. I'm expecting far more criminal action against those service providers who will be non-compliant.
Okay.
And I think the message that's going to come loud and clear is India welcomes all kinds of law-abiding companies so long as they comply with the laws of the biggest democracy in the world. And in case if you choose not to comply with the laws, then Indian law has got a strong bitter medicine awaiting for you.
Fair enough, and I will get Saira to respond to that. But before that, I want to bring in Rahul Srivastav. Your sources in the Parliamentary Standing Committee on Information Technology, we've been told that they've sought an explanation from Twitter as to why Ravi Shankar Prasad, the Union Law and IT Minister's account, was blocked, even if it was for a couple of hours or an hour. Is the message going out to big tech, to social media giants, that across political lines, irrespective of parties, the political leadership stands united on this issue? Are they united on the issue?
Gaurav, that's one very good thing about the standing committees in India, that outside you may have a lot of differences, but eventually that mini parliament structure where what happens inside is actually the discussions are not publicized on TV like parliamentary proceedings and nobody needs to prove a point. They're very good. I have seen over the last now 26, 27 years, those are pretty good, cutting across party lines kind of proceedings. Also, I think in this there was another motive because Mr. Tharoor, who is the chairman, even his account was blocked. Now, both Mr. Tharoor and Mr. Ravi Shankar Prasad want to know that why was their account blocked, not as per the laws in India, copyright laws, but the copyright laws of the USA.
Okay.
Thank God Twitter is not based in Idi Amin's country because it could have meant something else. But Gaurav, I think what Mr. Duggal and Ambassador was saying, I would like to add one point. Google and Twitter are different.
Yes.
One major difference is Google has a very clear hierarchical structure in India. Its connection to Google USA is very clear. Parent company is clear. Google has a shady existence in India. It is a company which is
Twitter.
sales company. The MD is a sales executive of Twitter USA,
Yes.
but it's a different entity, not responsible for the content, controlled by Twitter USA, and it is answerable to a company in Singapore. The very beginning, they were trying to escape indemnity and accountability. That's what is the difference between Google and Twitter, perhaps.
Okay, and Saira Shah Halim, doesn't that make Twitter's motives suspicious? Look at Google.
I'll tell you what.
There's a hierarchy. That hierarchy is coming clean on what is happening. Look at Twitter. It continues to duck when it comes, at least that's what the perception in the government is, and that's what the law minister has gone on record to say in that interview to India Today, is Rahul Srivastav, that their policies are discriminatory. They are not following the law of the land.
I think this is just another bullying tactic because the government wants to, of course, crush dissent and also intimidate
How does appointing
people.
if I may, how does appointing a grievance officer, a compliance officer, and a nodal officer crush dissent?
So what I'm trying to say is that India is the second largest user of internet across the world. So there are big techs. We've got Facebook, we've got Twitter. And let me add one thing, Gaurav, that the government uses all these mediums extensively for election campaigning, for governance, okay, for tweeting out day-to-day activities. So Twitter, Facebook is indispensable. And again, I'm iterating that, yes, it's very important to comply with the rules of the land. However, we shouldn't use the issue of sovereignty and integrity just to use these as bogeys to again stifle dissent and not let criticism of the government happen, because that is what democracy
But can fake
is
news
all
be
about.
permitted in the name of freedom of expression, as appears to be the case prima facie in Ghaziabad, according to the police FIR and their investigations?
Gaurav, I can quote numerous incidents that have transpired in the last 1.5 years where there have been protests, be it CANRC, be the farmers' protests, and there have been attempts by the government to whitewash all its mistakes in the past. I mean, why don't they take ownership of the mistakes that, yes, we made mistakes with the migrants.
So who decides? Does Twitter decide or do courts of law in India decide? That's my only point, ma'am. Who decides?
So, Gaurav, the government uses these platforms extensively to actually use this for misinformation. Not only it uses this platform for information and also to control the narrative. So today, the biggest users.
Sure, but in case there is a dispute, whether it is CAA or NRC or Ghaziabad alleged fake news about communal reasons for that incident, who decides? Do courts of law in India decide, or does a company in the United States of America, a company for profit, Twitter,
let the courts decide. Let the courts decide. Let an independent body decide, because today you cannot tweak information to whitewash your mistakes and appear as Mr. Goody Two Shoes. I'm sorry. If the government has done a good job, we'll give the government a pat on the back and saying this is commendable, this is great. Okay. However, if you're going to use this as a bogey to stifle and intimidate activists, intimidate journalists, where even journalism today, for even putting out information, a person can risk going to jail. And today, everyone who's criticizing the government is probably a tweet away from detention. So that should not happen in a healthy democracy. We are not moving forward. We are just taking 2 steps backwards.
So even fake news should be permitted in the name of freedom of expression, so that, but go ahead, tweet fake news as long as... Okay, Ambassador Vishnu Prakash wants to quickly respond.
By government sources
there is nothing in the world, there is nobody who is indispensable, individual or institution. That is the notion that, mistaken notion that Twitter is under, and that is my worthy colleague is also mentioning the same thing. If government has done something wrong, I'm not a spokesperson for the government. We have enough institutions, the Indian citizens, Indian media, Indian judiciary. I do not want to be judged by an American company. And I don't know who is raising the bogey. I would submit that it is Twitter which is raising a bogey, not government of India, because enough opportunities have been given and they are clearly in violation. And last point, Gaurav, when it is said that government has been using it, yes, because it is available, it is being used. TikTok has been banned. What happened? If tomorrow Twitter is not there, there'll be other mediums which will come up. Okay. So this does not mean that because there's a medium and it's being used, therefore government is culpable. I rest my case.
Fair enough. This debate continues, and we will track the story very, very closely. There are very strong points being raised by both sides. Let's see what courts in India decide, because they have the ultimate authority, and we'll be tracking that story. To Ambassador Vishnu Prakash, Saira Sahalim, Pawan Dugal and Rahul Srivastav, many thanks for joining me. A quick break at this stage. Coming up, a big story. More drones spotted near defense installations in Jammu.